양지 진불도던 힘이 장존의 문음 진불가 겼다 바그라 다른 찬도 실물도 tumbadik janla ki shamsar mechanrawar saringi jankamsa jawar tukji shanla yilarma jime panzo jala sara de gongje toban bawra shinjilo gongje toban bawra shinjilo gongje toban bawra shinjilo.
Profound and subtle Dharma is rarely encountered in eons. Now we can hear and follow it. May we realize the Tathagata's meaning. To liberate sentient beings, please generate bodhicitta before today's teaching. Now we will continue studying the Sutra of Great Liberation. We are now teaching the lower volume. In the lower volume, yesterday in the earlier section, Prince Virtuous to See brought 3,000 people to the presence of the Buddha. He invoked the Buddhas of the east, south, west, north, above and below, the bodhisattvas of the east, south, west, north, above and below, as well as all the celestial beings such as the 33 heavens and the 4 heavenly kings, also various immortal deities such as the gods of the mountains, rivers and oceans. All those who have ears, let them hear. All those who have eyes, let them witness. On behalf of all sentient beings, they repent before the Buddha for the wrongdoings they committed in the past. Just like when we recite daily the liturgy for generating bodhicitta. In the beginning, we speak of all the Buddhas and bodhisattvas in the 10 directions. Vajra masters, please listen. Then I will take refuge and generate bodhicitta, just like this. Here as well, they invoke all the Buddhas and bodhisattvas of the 10 directions and 3 times, as well as before various witnesses. They confess the wrongdoings created since beginningless time. We all have this kind of mindset when we recite. This kind of confession is indeed very beneficial. Some of us regularly recite the Vajrasattva mantra, the Vajrasattva liturgy, and other liturgies and texts of various Buddhas and bodhisattvas to perform confession. We have also taught the confession to the 35 Buddhas and merits of the Vajrasattva mantra in the past, the merits of the 100-syllable mantra and so forth. We have taught some Dharma in these aspects. I think on one hand we should practice with the intention of bringing our own wrongdoings to confess. Actually, many of our senior practitioners sincerely perform confession from the heart while reciting the Sutra of Great Liberation. In this way, one's mind stream will be purified. There are very great benefits. So today, once again, according to the content of this Sutra of Great Liberation, we will perform confession. I hope many people who have heard this sutra will not only understand these principles theoretically, but in actual practice. Those who previously did not like to confess will come to love confession. Those whose confession previously lacked particular depth, after we hear this Dharma, may gradually become someone who truly learns how to confess. Only then does listening to the Dharma have meaning. Today, this section on confession, I've looked at the Sutra of Buddha Names. The content found in the Sutra of Buddha Names is very similar, including the 3 sections we are about to discuss below. Actually, in the Sutra of Buddha Names, particularly including some vocabulary, they are the same. When you have the opportunity, you can reference and compare them, because I did not have time to compare them in great detail. But the general content is very similar. And what is very interesting, the vocabulary used here is very similar. There are several versions of the Sutra of Buddha Names. Some are from the Northern Wei period. It seems to have unknown translators. During the Sui dynasty, there were also 2 translations, but the text of our current version is very similar to the one translated by Bodhiruchi, including some of the vocabulary expressions he uses, they are the same. For our sutra text, because there is no separate commentary on the Sutra of Great Liberation, in the future, after we finish teaching this time, I do not know if it can become a commentary. Once there is a commentary, can later generations rely on this to study? This time mine is not particularly detailed because there are many trivial matters, including recently proofreading some previously translated works and currently still translating. So indeed time is quite tight. I also hope to publish several books this year. Some were already translated before but have never been published. Some are newly completed this year. Previously, for a period, I made the aspiration every year to translate and publish 2 books of moderate size. Up to now, basically able to accomplish it. So I also have various tasks in different areas, including if we want to teach the Sutra of Great Liberation without a commentary. The time for consulting related materials is also limited. But generally speaking, comparing the Tibetan and Chinese texts, literally, basically everything works. And the Sutra of Buddha names is worth referencing too. Also in the Nirvana Sutra, including the Bodhisattva Lion's Roar chapter, there are some parts quite similar to this. When you can, take a look. Today we're teaching the section that says, yesterday taught that they made invocations before the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Below's the actual confession content. Earlier was requesting all the noble ones as witnesses. Below, what's the content they want to confess? This teaches confession content. We, from beginningless worlds up until today's defiled bodies. These 3,000 people regarding their own bodies, it seems they also do not have that kind of, just like many of us now, my wicked, karma-heavy, stinking flesh bag, defiled body. What is our current defiled body like? From beginningless time until now, actually, it is our deluded mind in disarray, that is, a confused mind, and countless distorted views, countless views of permanence, annihilation, and purity. What we often speak of, permanence, bliss, self, and purity. Distorted views, countless inverted views, countless afflictions, afflictions such as greed, hatred, and ignorance. Also, because of past life wrongdoings, every being carries karma, their previous wrongdoings. The 10 unwholesome actions and other wrongdoings and so forth cannot all be described. If explained one by one, it cannot be described. Because of these reasons, one is our own confused mind, our own wrong views, our own karma and afflictions and so forth. Even space might not be able to contain them. So many causes and conditions of ordinary beings. Because of these causes and conditions, so many wrongdoings created, we ourselves do not know. The wrongdoings created are especially abundant. We ourselves cannot even be aware of them. What have I myself created? Not to mention those from beginningless time. We ourselves, perhaps in this lifetime. The wrongdoings created from childhood until now, if you were asked to describe them one by one, you probably really cannot do it. How many natural wrongdoings of body, speech, and mind you have created, we probably cannot explain clearly either. How many bodhisattva vows you violated, how many pratimoksa vows, how many tantric vows you violated, we do not know. We only know what we recently created. Just like when I came up here earlier, I got into an argument with some Dharma friends. I argued quite fiercely and felt a bit unhappy. I thought I should just get up and leave in the middle. Later, a Khenpo told me to sit down. I thought, no, appearance is still important. So I just endured it and sat down. After a while, I felt a bit better. Then I went to teach the class. My ending afterward seemed reasonably acceptable. So sometimes truly, including when we Dharma friends argue, if your personal relationship is a bit better, when you are particularly angry, just slightly, just like in the way of the Bodhisattva, remain like a tree. This is a bit better. Sometimes because of ignorance, afflictions, and hatred, once the object appears, we cannot help but be afflicted. Sometimes indeed, after it is over, we also regret it. We also feel somewhat shameless. Not to mention being someone who teaches the Dharma, we have taken refuge in the Buddha and Bodhisattvas for such a long time, but sometimes it seems these things also come out naturally. So the karma we have created since beginningless time, we ourselves find it very difficult to calculate. To count them ourselves, it is impossible. As the Sutra of the Gathering of All Dharmas says, in the cycle of birth and death, countless wrongdoings created, only the Buddha can bear witness. Other wisdom cannot comprehend. Since beginningless time, in the long cycle of birth and death, the wrongdoings created by body, speech, and mind are boundless. Only the Buddha's omniscient and all-perceiving wisdom knows them clearly. Others, even 10th level bodhisattvas, do not understand everything in a perfect way. We ordinary people need not even mention it. But it is best for us, when confessing before the Buddhas and bodhisattvas, from beginningless time until now, all wrongdoings created by body, speech, and mind. We openly confess these one by one. This manner of expression should be very good, because the main causes and conditions for creating wrongdoing, as just mentioned, are either a confused mind, or distorted views, or karma and afflictions, carelessness, and not relying on correct mindfulness and awareness, and so forth. Created through these, created through ignorant, habitual tendencies, and so forth. So first of all, when we confess, we indeed know it is our own since beginningless time, these unwholesome habitual tendencies that have led to this. Just as in the Nirvana Sutra below, it teaches about the 6 causes and conditions for creating wrongdoing, exactly the same as what is said here. What are these 6 causes and conditions? Evil mind blazing, not seeing the afterlife, only seeing the present, taking pleasure in cultivating afflictions, being far from virtuous roots, negative karma obstructing, drawing near evil friends. These 6 causes and conditions are indeed very important. When we create wrongdoing, the first is what? The evil mind of greed, hatred, and ignorance blazing. When hatred comes, when greed comes, when this kind of particularly unwholesome mind comes, ordinary people are indeed difficult to stop, just like when a flood appears, surging and roaring, so very difficult to stop. This is the first. What is taught in the Nirvana Sutra is also the same, the 6 causes and conditions for aniccantika. Second, not seeing the afterlife, only seeing the present life. If we could see the afterlife, we definitely would not dare to create wrongdoing like this. But because we ordinary people do not see the afterlife, only see the present life, we have many unpleasant and unsatisfactory situations. This is the second one. Then the third, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right, the third is taking pleasure in cultivating afflictions, because since beginningless time, enjoying these unwholesome habitual tendencies toward afflictions, unwholesome habits of afflictions. Fourth, being far from virtuous roots, because for a very long time perhaps we have not encountered virtuous friends, plus in our own mind stream, virtuous roots are really weak. Fifth, negative karma obstructing. Originally your faith was strong, but some bad manifestation appears, then your virtuous roots are severed. Some people study very well. Eventually afflictions arise too. Arguing with dharma friends or some other karmic ripens, then can't finish well what you started well. Some negative karma manifests in the middle, beginning to obscure or obstruct. The last one, drawing near evil friends. Bad influences is the most troublesome. What are these 6 called? 6 unwholesome conditions for creating wrongdoing and behaving like an ikantika. These 6 unwholesome conditions, actually, when we create wrongdoing, it's often like this. Some may have all 6, some have parts. For example, they've got bad habits plus rely on bad influences. Actually, bad influences are most fundamental. The Ekottara Agama teaches people originally have no evil. Drawing near evil friends later will definitely plant unwholesome roots forever in darkness. People originally, the Tathagata Garbha, should be pure, no evil, but because of drawing near evil friends, later unwholesome roots get planted in their mind stream. So forever, incredibly long time, they suffer in darkness. We can also see this. Some people originally were also studying acceptably, but later, because negative karma manifested, they relied on bad influence. Because of various environmental reasons, some monastics, like when on vacation, leaving, they do not have a sense of security. Please bless me, I do not know if I'll come back. We can't guarantee either. If their unwholesome karmic tendencies and habits manifest, very possible to permanently leave this virtuous environment. So our minds sometimes have these unwholesome causes and conditions. Of course, traditional cultural saying, people at the very beginning, human nature is originally good. Some, like Mencius, believe this. Like Junzi, some believe they think that human nature is originally good is wrong. It should be human nature is originally evil. But this saying is actually also unreasonable. If human nature is originally evil, then evil person could never repent. But most people, looking at the proportion, most people should eventually regret the wrongdoings they created in the past. It's not that most end up returning to some ultimately evil nature, not like that. So if we analyze from the beginning till now, the entire mindset of humanity, their viewpoints actually do not have a reliable basis. It should be as Buddhism teaches, All sentient beings' minds originally possess Tathagata Garbha. For this reason, inherently all are Buddha nature. We can say this. But because of the bad influence, because of unwholesome environments, we'll create many wrongdoings. This is natural. Some Dharma friends feel especially ashamed, feel they have created some wrongdoings, cannot continue living, reproach themselves more, become more pained. Actually, on one hand, maybe we do not understand ordinary beings' nature. We have extremely high expectations for ourselves, like Buddhas and bodhisattvas. But if we gradually understand the principles in sutras and shastras, these principles, slowly, in every ordinary being's mind stream, having various karma and afflictions should be normal. Only some people really have few afflictions, some have lots. Among the people we are familiar with, there are some like these too. We all know in our class of 30 or 40 people, certain individuals get along great with everyone. We do not see them constantly suffering over this today, suffering over that tomorrow. But some people, happy times are rare, afflictive matters keep occurring daily. This relates to one's own habits. In this situation, mind should often relax more. Don't reproach yourself too much. Living like this has no meaning. I create wrongdoing every day. Living is a burden, a pressure. Better just end my own life, achieving liberation that way. But actually this won't achieve liberation. On the contrary, it brings pain. So through studying Buddhism, no matter what status you are, you should forgive yourself, not reproach yourself. Now the great majority of people who have depression and anxiety, it is because they have very high expectations, can't reach their own psychological expectations. Eventually their minds get bound tighter and tighter. Finally, perhaps your mental state gradually becomes abnormal. This suffering is also embarrassing to tell others, always buried in your own mind. Gradually becomes a kind of guilt. Finally becomes a mental illness. Gradually, after hospital checkup, wow, their indicators are quite high. Then they start taking medicine. Actually, for depression now, medication does play a role. Temporarily controlling it works. But I think taking medicine is not as good as relaxing your mind. Your self-expectations shouldn't be too high. Some feel there is no meaning better commit suicide. This mindset often arises. That way maybe gets worse and worse. Your illness might not necessarily be resolved just by taking medicine. So everyone, especially Mahayana Buddhism, thought if studied somewhat solidly, deeply, psychological problems should be resolved easily. I'm not speaking empty words here. Including ourselves in life's process when encountering many things at the time, maybe some sadness, despair, but then turning back, gradually thinking, actually we shouldn't have such high expectations for samsara. If we expect it too beautiful, too perfect, it also can't be done. And if we obtain today fame, wealth and health, actually any glory and wealth in samsara is only the beauty of a water bubble. It won't last very long. If I envy it, for how long, not much point. Actually, if I obtain it, just this much. If I do not obtain it, also just this much. If we have this kind of attitude, perhaps in the worldly matters, many situations where you resent others, cannot forgive, this mindset can also gradually be resolved. Mental attitude is very important. If mental attitude is healthy, then physical matters, external matters, easier to resolve, I think. Don't know how I got to the topic of depression just now. But indeed, now there are quite many people with mental illnesses. Among our monastics and Buddhists, comparatively fewer, but still some. Some Dharma teachers saying, Khenpo, I now have depression, what should I do? I do not know. Some people think my mind is too afflicted now, I want to become a monastic, but monastics are not necessarily free from afflictions. Mainly if the monastic's mind has not renounced. Sometimes I see among monastics not all are completely happy. So everyone should, whether monastic or lay, the inclusive thought of Mahayana Buddhism, this is the only marvelous medicine. Next we teach, because of this kind of mental state, just now various mental states from beginningless time toward bhiksus and bhiksuns committing unlawful acts. The word she here doesn't need to be there in the Nirvana Sutra and other sutras, also not there. This was added later by them probably, so the two she characters unnecessary. The meaning is toward bhiksus and bhiksunas doing some unlawful things. If it's there, maybe the Chinese text is slightly smoother, but if not in ancient text, we cannot add it. Toward bhiksus and bhiksunas committing unlawful acts. Toward parents, bhyan is not obvious in Tibetan. What does bhyan mean? It seems to lack particular meaning, but in the Mahaparinirvana Sutra, there's also similar wording, also with this bhyan character. So when translating then, it does not necessarily mean beside, by the side. The meaning is toward bhiksus and bhiksuns, slandering them, attacking them, doing some unlawful things to monastics, toward father and mother doing unlawful things, or freely using sangha property. Some say it is a Sanskrit word, meaning the property of the sangha. Some say flower garlands and other sangha offerings, these things used in common. But in Tibetan, what we call sangha property is the stuff offered to the sangha, including meal offerings. We often speak of enjoying sangha property. Sangha property means the property of the sangha. Here, freely using means at will, carelessly, casually using sangha property toward 5 sangha divisions or creating discord. These 5, just now bhiksus, bhiksuns, then parents enjoying sangha property, plus toward 5 sangha divisions creating discord. This is called committing wrongdoing toward 5 objects, meaning creating wrongdoing. Among these, sangha property already explained. Regarding 5 sangha divisions, actually Nirvana Sutra also have 5 sangha divisions. The 5 divisions of the sangha creating wrongdoing among each other, constantly sinking in the 3 evil realms. If toward 5 sangha divisions mutually doing unlawful discord, then they'll be submerged in 3 evil realms long term. Here, 5 sangha divisions are not easy to find. There is a commentary on the Nirvana Sutra in a Nirvana Sutra commentary. 5 divisions of the Sangha, actually during Buddha's time, what we call 5 Shravaka divisions. How are 5 divisions divided? Then after Shakyamuni Buddha's parinirvana, after 100 years, during King Ashoka's time, the Sangha was mainly divided into the Stavira and Mahasanghika schools. The Stavira school later split into Haimavata and Sarvastivada schools. Later, seems Haimavata school gradually disappeared. Haimavata school seems to have disappeared. The Sarvastivada school then split, one called Mahashasaka school, probably Sanskrit. One is Mahashasaka school, one is Dharmaguptaka school, one called Kashyapaya school, split into these 3. The meaning is among 18 Shravaka schools just now, one is Stavira school. Later became 2 schools, Haimavata and Sarvastivada schools. Sarvastivada school split into 3, so 4, plus Mahasanghika school, that's 5 divisions of the Sangha. Before there were the fundamental 5 divisions. 4 branches, 18 Shravaka schools. There is also this teaching. There's Stavira school here, mainly after the Buddha's parinirvana, recitation by 500 true arhats who had attained the fruit. This division is called the Stavira school, all senior elders. As for the Mahasanghika school, apart from these 500 arhats, others who had attained the fruit and hadn't attained the fruit, Sangha with relatively high realizations, among them also many arhats, their recitation. This sect is called the Mahasanghika school. Previously, when His Holiness Jigme Punsok Rinpoche went to India, there is a place called the Cave of 7 Leaves. This is where the Mahasanghika school held their recitation. Where the Stavira school recited was another cave. Then people also introduced it like this. The meaning is, among various Shravaka divisions mutually beginning to slander, disparage, this fault is really serious. Of course, now with us here, not having 18 Shravaka schools arguing, but if we, like in Han region, Pure Land, Chan, Tang esoteric schools, mutually debating, arguing, discord, slandering, in Tibet, Nyingma Sakya and Gelug schools, mutually also taking discord, including within one sect. Various gurus, various schools, monasteries among each other, if often speaking some discord, then this fault is also really serious. As a practitioner, try to minimize discord. This is truly critical. Comparatively, our center, our volunteers are slightly better compared to some centers, but we still need to keep this up. This is very important. Even though we can't practice very profound dharmas, try not to speak others' faults and discord. This is very important. Previously, Panshan, Master Tamazu's disciple, said something which I think is very good. For practitioners, the great taboo is speaking of people's strengths and weaknesses, right and wrong, and even all worldly matters that do not concern oneself. The mouth cannot speak, the mind cannot think. Even worldly matters unrelated to oneself, best not to talk about their strengths and weaknesses, right and wrong. In the mind also, do not think much about strengths and weaknesses, right and wrong. I am a seeker of liberation. What relation does it have to me? If we can do this, genuinely good. Pure view, it has nothing to do with me. If we can do this, obviously very good. Look here, among these 5 improper conduct toward monastics, toward parents, toward the property of the sangha, creating sangha discord, faults really serious. This also deserves confession. Or talking about countless worldly wrongs, talking various kinds of countless worldly wrongdoings. The meaning is talking about others' faults through speech, creating various worldly wrongs, like you teach the merits of killing, especially some officials, leaders without wisdom, really create serious wrongs. Last century, not too long ago, there was a tyrant in our Tibetan Nyarong region. He did not truly believe in cause and effect, but sometimes also sort of believed. He heard people say when building walls, if there's a small insect corpse inside, wall will be really sturdy. Then he required people below to go find this insect everywhere, then crush it dead, put it in mud for this. Later, he had conflict with the dirge area, and he wanted to seize the dirge printing house, thought of all sorts of things, then built a bridge. I heard this bridge still exists. He built a bridge over the Yangtze River. He was a relatively famous evil ruler in Tibet. He had some fear, worry that children who might harm him in the future, so he would force to feed them milk, yogurt, then throw them down from high buildings. On one hand, it was a kind of amusement. On the other hand, also a behavior to annihilate enemies. But sometimes he would also believe, whenever he encountered a guru, require them, when I die, you must come to save me. One great master had no choice but to promise, when you die, I will definitely come to save you. Later, it seems, when that master was in Qinghai, suddenly in meditation state, that Gompo Namgyal died. I already promised not to let him fall into the lower realms this lifetime. I should go to deliver him. He immediately returned. In our history, there are some evil rulers with one sentence, kill living beings, whatever's needed, now even more so. Now bird flu, all have to be killed, whatever. Animal husbandry should develop, must have however much. So sometimes these people, especially now with very advanced technology, agriculture, fishing industries, in this respect, karma created especially, speaking of countless worldly wrongdoings, plus killing beings with bodhicitta, those studying Mahayana Buddhism like monastics, some bodhisattvas who truly have bodhicitta in their mind stream. Perhaps beings with bodhicitta in their mind stream are not necessarily human, like we see in the Buddha's life stories. Some are animals, look like yaks, look like this, but they are great bodhisattvas. This is possible too. Plus slandering Dharma teachers. In the 2 sutras we taught last year quite a lot about this, and also calling Dharma non-Dharma, originally accomplished. True Dharma, they call it non-Dharma. Great perfection is spoken by Brahmins. Great perfection was created by later people. The Shurangama Sutra was created by someone else. The Nirvana Sutra is a false sutra, and so forth. Calling true Dharma non-Dharma, then calling non-Dharma Dharma. Like originally, no way to attain liberation through these worldly words. Oh, this is true Dharma, so good. Especially people without wisdom, they regard worldly nonsense as true Dharma. And also the Tathagata, like we explained before, passed away and will not return. After the Buddha's parinirvana, nothing more. The Dharma is also impermanent. Saying the Tathagata is impermanent, the Dharma is impermanent, the Sangha jewel is impermanent. When appearing before sentient beings, the impermanence can be acknowledged, Dharma's disappearance as well. And the Buddha's parinirvana can also be accepted. The Sangha eventually all disappeared. This can be called appearances, impermanence, but fundamentally the Tathagata also completely extinguished, nothing more, Dharma gone. If we do not understand essential nature's principle, this is also slander, and also not delighting in wisdom and generosity, believing and accepting deviant teachings, particularly willing to accept some deviant teachings. Some people truly, because of their merit, have zero interest or delight in true Dharma. When speaking some deviant teachings, wow, find it particularly corresponding to them, like Perfection of Great Wisdom treatise says, some accepting deviant teachings like eyeless people entering a pit, blind leading blind, especially frightening. They also lead a group to rely on some bad influences, saying this teaching is such and such excellent. Now in this world there are many, especially where religion is relatively open, even more serious. Wearing all kinds of clothes, wearing all kinds of hats, holding all kinds of ritual implements, wow, everyone below crying and making noise, faith overflowing, especially lots like this, various wrongdoings like these. Actually, we should not mention others, just ourselves. Before the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, we should have this. For each one of us, those I can remember, can't remember, tons, from beginningless time until today, before the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have the opportunity to confess. With what kind of mindset? Not indifferent, nonchalant, should be with immense sense of shame, with immeasurable fear, especially fearful. I have created so much like this, but truly after I die, too frightening. Each wrong has such frightening karmic results, hair standing on end, really scared, then with immeasurable shame. Alas, as a Buddhist, I am truly too ashamed. As a monastic, as a lay person, saying such things, doing such things, in my mind also continuously arising, surging these afflictions, truly too ashamed, from the heart, tears like rain, particularly with self-reproach, self-blame, when confessing should be relatively, now so-called some emotional people, when happy, they're really happy, especially joyful, but when suffering also truly have some people like corpses, nonchalant, happy also nothing, suffering also nothing, actually not very good. When confessing, I wish to take refuge in and supplicate the three jewels. The Buddhas have compassionate minds, Vaipulya. Here it is the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, three jewels. These two words, Vaipulya, not particularly obvious in Tibetan. The meaning is, the Buddha's compassion equals parents. Seems like the Tibetan explanation. But according to Chinese, it might be even better. Today I confess before the Buddhas who possess compassionate minds without any partiality like parents, especially loving Vaipulya Mahayana Dharma, mainly the Sutra of Great Liberation and these teachings. Then Bodhisattva friends, all the Sangha are Bodhisattva virtuous friends, that is to say, before the Buddha jewel, Dharma jewel and Sangha jewel, I confess, please witness or allow us to openly confess. May all heavy birth and death wrongs from immeasurable eons be eliminated. May we never create them again in the future. With this kind of very urgent mind, really sorrowful, these heavy wrongdoings created from beginningless time, one by one, I confess before the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Some of our Dharma friends, when confessing, reciting diligently, really have feeling, truly tears streaming down faces, especially when you go to some centers then, before the Guru, before the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Originally, when religion had just opened up, I was in middle school then. We had a fellow villager called Ayi Ma. When circumambulating Mount Soto, he drank a bit of alcohol. At that time, he even more remembered some wrongdoings he had created. It seemed he meant the yaks he killed. His mother killed yaks. But because he was drunk, he said, "Yaks I killed, yaks my mother killed." For a while he'd say, "Mother I killed, me my mother killed." When confessing, because he was somewhat drunk, drinking while circumambulating the sacred mountain and prostrating, he was crying and saying, "Wrongs of killing my mother killing me." We wondered, what is he saying? Did he kill his mother? Now every time I pass Mount Soto I recall this. He left this world really early, but he still confessed very that way. Back then, religion had just opened up and there were especially many people circumambulating Mount Soto. People circumambulating the sacred mountain were lined up. Everyone was curious, looking at him. He loudly said his original meaning was he'd killed yaks because then pretty famished. His mother heard she also killed some small calves. Generally in the Tibetan region, if killing cattle, men kill, women don't. But his mother also had this, so he was confessing there. But when confessing, his expression was a bit wrong. I confess the wrong of killing my mother killing me. So we should have this very intense self-reproach to confess. It is still very good. Some people say, thinking of wrongdoings they have created, tears flowing. This confession mind is really good. This is the first section today. We've got several. Now we're teaching the second section. Again, these 3,000 people, began supplicating. We follow them, entering their world to confess. We, from beginningless eons, created 5 inexpiable offenses, violated prohibitions of past, future, present Buddha's precepts, proscribed offenses, past, present, future. The future has not yet appeared, but now we can also confess. Before the Buddhas of the 3 times, bodhisattva vows, pratimoksa vows for Shravakas, and Ichantika behavior, all these wrongs. This section is quite similar to the Nirvana Sutra's Tathagata Nature chapter, behavior of severing virtuous roots created from beginningless time. We have explained Ichantika before, creating excessive wrongs, uttering harsh language, scolding and slandering others. Some people are very fierce when scolding people. Their eloquence is very good. When usually teaching the Dharma or giving explanations, few scriptural references, but when scolding people, they have many traditional sayings, all kinds of things, particularly brilliant. We also explained slandering true Dharma before, creating heavy karma of slandering true Dharma. The Mahaprajnaparamita Sutra says, although the 5 inexpiable offenses bring heavy suffering, they can compare to slandering true Dharma. The 2 sutras we taught last year also say, including in the Contemplation Sutra, creating the 5 inexpiable offenses can still be forgiven. Many who slander true Dharma can't be forgiven. So we should be very careful. Even if we cannot teach true Dharma, we should definitely avoiding slandering true Dharma. Previously not having repented without any sense of shame. Previously being a monastic or being a lay Buddhist, creating so many wrongdoings, but at the time had no regret, no confession, or violating the 10 unwholesome actions, the 5 inexpiable offenses. There was a 5 inexpiable above, and here also 5 inexpiable, knowing oneself definitely committed such serious matters. Sometimes oneself knowingly violates. There are such cases too. Original mind, initial mind without fear, without shame. Not only oneself without shame, without fear, but also silently accepting sangha offerings, others' offerings, never openly confessing, and for these true Dharma, not protecting them with a particularly cherishing mind. Plus in this, disparaging and looking down upon toward true Dharma, often having belittlement mind, speaking truly many faults. Some of us, I mentioned the other day, especially when young, correct mindfulness are relatively immature, speaking others various faults. While in old age, when people become slightly more mature, they deeply regrets. So I said before, in our Tibetan region, many people recite the Sutra of Great Liberation and the 100-syllable mantra in the old age. Truly a lot. People with correct mindfulness and awareness eventually feels young people were too that way. Back then, for livelihood, for emotions, for various reasons, especially people who grew up in special eras, maybe they created wrongs, slandered true Dharma, these were relatively more common. Some of us, perhaps because there was no guru to guide everyone, killed living beings from childhood. These were also relatively common. We spoke a lot of this. Today here, what else do we say? There is no Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, 3 jewels. This is false. Speaking some materialist sayings, creating this karma, 10 unwholesome actions, 5 inexpiable offenses, 5 inexpiable offenses, and so forth. Here may be taught from different angles. Although here 5 inexpiable have already been mentioned several times, but one is an overall summary. Before, from beginningless time, these created. Look, it's raining heavily again, right? Huh? Did you bring umbrellas? Then what to do? Actually, in rain, still pretty good, doing some free bathing in summer. No need to pay. In our place, if paying fees, monks and nuns' bathhouses, monks' bathhouse now still doesn't work. The other day we specially held a meeting, what to do in the future. Although nuns' side has bathhouse, sometimes it requires payment. So if going back in rain, on one hand, Dharma hardship, other hand, free bathing. Summer won't freeze to death, right? I worry later won't have this chance. Wrongs from beginningless time, today with immeasurable fear and shame, I take refuge in the 3 jewels. The Buddhas are compassionate, Vaipuliya like parents. Just like before, Bodhisattva, virtuous friends, hear and permit us to openly confess. May all heavy birth-death wrongs from immeasurable eons be eliminated. May we never create them again in the future. Confessing like this is really important. I have quoted the saying from the Golden Light Sutra of Supreme Victory before. If people for 100,000 eons create extremely heavy wrongdoings, for a brief moment able to openly confess, all evils completely eliminated. Wrongs created for 100,000 eons, if I use a sincere mind, open confession mind, then in a really quick time it'll be eliminated. This is still very important. If we can genuinely confess like this, it is truly important. Everyone should follow this if you don't understand other liturgies. Recite this well, prostrate and offer incense before the Buddha. Truly confess once or twice. This is a very good opportunity. When we're dying, we often want a lifetime of, in past great masters' biographies, there are often such cases. I may be departing now before this. I should do a proper confession. If not creating wrongdoing afterward, then because when dying in this life there's no time to create wrongdoing. This is the best method among four opponent powers. We are alive, worried that afterward we will still create wrongdoing. If you are dying, then you are okay. Not creating wrongdoing afterward, indeed fulfilling your promise, no time to create wrongs. This is also really good. This is the second confession section. The third section is the same as just taught. We, from immeasurable eons, with four distorted views, permanence, bliss, self, and purity, four heavy dharmas referring to four root precepts, killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, speaking of stulatyaya. Stulatyaya, coarse, gross wrong, this meaning. Gross wrongdoing dharma, actually it is the four grave offenses. Just terminology transformation here. That is to say, four distorted views I held, four grave offenses I created. These wrongs already violated before others saying haven't violated. Originally oneself already violated precepts, telling others haven't violated. Like we monastics trimming nails, hair, you tell others it's fine, long nails are fine, long hair is also fine, before others clearly violated, saying have not violated, not violating, saying violating, originally have not violated, like in our minds some greed, hatred, and ignorance. In precepts many are body and speech. If greedy mind, angry mind arises in mind, have not violated precepts, only created wrongs. But you say, you have already generated angry mind. You can't dwell with the sangha. You have to leave. Now, some of us do not understand fundamentally, scaring others. You have generated a wrong view, so you can no longer stay here, and often like this. This kind of saying is incorrect. Also, light offense saying heavy. Originally very light wrongs like we cut trees, dig earth, these things. But because in some sutras the Buddha taught a certain Naga king previously with disparagement mind ended up in hells. So you just cut one tree, wow, you will definitely fall into hells. Speaking this way actually reveals that you don't understand cause and effect. Without a disparagement attitude, it is also not that serious. Taking originally light wrongdoing, heavy wrongdoing, originally is heavy wrongdoing, violated four grave offenses, four root precepts, but you say it is fine, it's nothing, pure view as impure. Originally their conduct is pure. Manjushra Bodhisattva going to the royal palace to benefit beings, the conduct is pure, but what you see is impure. Pure view is not well cultivated. Originally is impure, you see as pure. When ordinary people kill, steal, engage in sexual misconduct, it is definitely wrongdoing. You say, this is nothing, not only is there no wrong, but also benefiting beings. And also because of wrong views, someone praises worldly classics. Did we not say before, after we studied the Analects, there was someone who quit saying, I do not want to study Buddhism anymore. It is even better than the Buddhist sutras. I want to study traditional culture in future. Buddhist sutras are not profound. The Analects is very excellent. An old man from Yinshan like this, I will not say the name, not respecting Buddhist sutras, also speaking various wrong discourse, including some indecent words and so forth. He often discussed some things, talking about greed, hatred, and ignorance in being's mind stream, also hoarding 8 kinds of impure things. In the commentary on the Nirvana Sutra, there are 8 kinds of impure things. If you want to look them up, like some practitioners often hoard some fields, grain, gold and silver, continually storing many houses and so forth. In one person's name there is how many houses, how many cars. Although this is not mentioned here, actually as a monastic, try as much as possible to do subtraction. In our Buddhist centers, we also hope, especially in material things, try as much as possible subtraction. In outward behavior, we should not particularly go building many houses, buying many cars, various exaggerated praise, all not good. Now increasingly low-key, increasingly doing subtraction, including in our various departments. I've also said many times before, we are relatively stable now, and being able to survive is good. When you become increasingly high profile, it may be a harbinger of eventual death. So for individuals, it is also like this. If an individual has some ability, I think it is not very important, just promote and publicize, especially people who have just started teaching the Dharma and benefiting beings, having a little bit. Previously, when I first started, I continually taught whether to benefit beings or for the 8 worldly Dharmas in various respects, but maybe the lifespan is not necessarily very long this way. Especially in this era, everyone should maintain relatively stable, and accumulating wisdom is very important. The accumulation of merit should not be particularly promoted, especially in fundraising. These are not very good. I hope we should, whether you are doing life release or doing virtuous deeds, do not be too high profile. Otherwise, there may be various kinds of obstacles then. One should practice stably. This is relatively important. Some people perhaps grasp the proper measure. Actually, wise people usually do things relatively moderately, grasping the proper measure. People without wisdom, often unable to grasp well. Just like when yaks are carrying luggage, some good yaks can completely pass, even if above the weight is not very balanced. If a yak's strength is not very good, when slightly there is some imbalance in weight, for a while it falls on this side, drops on the ground, for a while drops on that side, very difficult. So some of us, when doing things, grasp the proper measure. This is very important. One should do things stably, like some of volunteers are truly very good. After how many years have passed, have no afflictions. Some are still acceptable at the beginning, however. Gradually, when receiving praise and recognition from others, wow, particularly, even the walking gait is different. The tone when speaking to others is also different. People, when being praised by others, it seems there is a kind of merit that cannot arise. One begins to descend, a kind of manifestation. Teach a bit more. True Buddha words taken as demon words, as I explained before, like the Diamond Sutra, the Prajnaparamita Sutra, absolutely true tantras of the Buddha, but others say this was created by later people, false sutra, this is not the Dharma of Shakyamuni Buddha, the speech of Brahmins, and so forth. True demon words, what true ordinary people created, taken as Buddha's speech. Some of us are truly very pitiful. Some worldly ordinary people's speech, particularly having faith on them, every day all reading these. Some of Dharma friends up to now are also like this, not reading Buddhist sutras, only reading worldly speech, very pitiful, or again believing and accepting the teachers of the 6 paths, what the heterodox teachings say. One is willing to believe and accept these heterodox teachings, these wrongdoings from today until complete nirvana. It also says here the Buddha's complete nirvana, the 3 jewels are impermanent. Body and mind are rising in delusion, immeasurable distorted views and so forth. Today with immeasurable fear, immeasurable sense of shame, before the 3 jewels taking refuge, supplicating. The Buddhas are compassionate, Vaipulya like parents, Bodhisattva, virtuous friends. Please allow or witness me, I before you openly confess. May all heavy wrongdoings of birth and death from immeasurable eons be eliminated. Never create them again in the future. In this way, the visages of and bodhisattvas can also appear, as the Sutra of Perfect Enlightenment taught. Constantly should diligently confess all wrongdoings from beginningless time. If all obstacles are eliminated, the Buddha realm will then appear. When we eliminate all obstacles, then the realm of the Buddha appearing before us, it is very easy. If not like this, karma continually obscuring our nature, then we recite how many sutras, contemplate how much. Some people very much complain. I have already practiced here for so much, not even one good dream, I want to leave. Actually, you have not practiced for a very long time either. When you first arrived, you brought particularly heavy karma. Now, although appearing as a monastic but also not that diligent, if you still want to leave with a complaining mind, maybe the consequences are not necessarily very good. So sometimes you should blame yourself a bit more. It's useless to blame the Buddhas and bodhisattvas, blaming virtuous friends. It should be that from beginningless time, so much karma accumulated in our mind stream. We should properly confess before the Buddhas and bodhisattvas. Once we confess, becoming increasingly pure, then my pure vision and realization is also increasingly easier to appear. So I hope everyone all together properly confess. Today we all together first with what we just taught, this kind of practice, we can practice before the three jewels together. We will recite the Vajrasattva mantra 100 times. When contemplating the content we just contemplated before, everyone should be able to recite just having finished teaching. Let's recite together. Banzar sadum, banzar sadum, banzar sadum, banzar sadum, banzar Banzar sadum, 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 banzar sadum. Banzar sadum, 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 banzar sadum. Banzar sadum, 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 banzar Banzar sadum, 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 banzar Banzar sadum, banzar sadum, banzar sadum, banzar sadum. Banzar sadum, banzar sadum, banzar sadum, banzar sadum, banzar sadum, banzar sadum. Banzar sadum, banzar sadum, banzar. Banzar sadum, dani shangchur nyangbo gara, damtsu nyangchur kandani, damtsu nambar dabra sho. Sonandai tamsa thugaya tonani de jana basi jirgana jirano chupai chupun solen drasya
Bandangara badma sadarda Bandangara badma sadarda Bandangara badma sadarda